Hi everyone, my name is Jeanette and I want to thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to do a quick, we'll see how quick. We're going to do the February wrap up of what I read. Okay, now I read a total of 8 books in February. So the first book I read was Never Let Go by Elizabeth Goddard. It is book 1 of a series, Uncommon Justice. It is considered a mystery suspense. So my thoughts were, Elizabeth Goddard is kind of a hit and miss author for me personally. I found the story started off really strong with the prologue. It drew me right in with the kidnapping of a newborn baby. But then once it started, like chapter 1, it was like, okay, what's going to happen? And all of a sudden, grandfather dies for this granddaughter, and she's dealing with all that and trying to wrap up his cases and stuff. And it's kind of like, okay, was she the kidnapped baby? Right? Like it just, I was so many questions. But then we quickly learned that the kidnapper is not the one behind everything that is happening now, as Willow tries to figure out what's going on, wrap up her granddad's case, and was her granddad killed? Or was it an accident? So they're trying to figure all that out, and I'm just like, where is this going? What's happening? I struggled with this one. I really did. Because Willow, the granddaughter, has worked with her grandfather on a bunch of cold cases throughout the years that the FBI couldn't solve, but he was able to put in a little bit more resources or something and get it. So then Austin comes along, who is an ex-FBI agent, I think. I don't really remember now. And all of a sudden, they can solve this case that the FBI couldn't solve for 20 plus years. It just, I don't know. Well, I enjoyed the second chance romance side of the story because Austin and Willow had a history and then broke up, and now they're back together, like working together and back together, yeah. The ending of the mystery just disappointed me, and I don't have a desire to pick up book 2, which is very unusual for me. Okay, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because it did keep me invested enough to keep reading to find out what was going to happen, but then the end just let it down for me. So then I started the Danger Never Sleeps series by Lynette Eason. I read Collateral Damage is book 1, and then Acceptable Risk is book 2, Active Defense is book 3, and Hostile Intent is book 4. Now, Lynette Eason is one of those go-to authors for me. I pick it up, I do not read the back cover or kind of skim over the back cover because I don't want to know. I want to go in just not knowing. And see, I've enjoyed so many of her stories that it's just, I'll buy a book. Yeah. So I'm going to do, because this is a 4-book series and I read all 4 books back to back, I'm going to do a separate video to review this series. Just know that I loved book 1, I loved book 3, book 2 was okay, book 4 just, I don't know if it was because it was an ending of a series and I knew I was saying goodbye to them, but it also ended, I didn't like the way the book ended and left me saying goodbye to the characters. And it was like, okay, what happens next? Like, what did I miss? So, but I mean, I loved the series, and book 3 is definitely my favorite of the series. I will go into a bit more in a separate review video. So then that's 4, 5. So then the 6th book I read this month, those were all Kindle books, Kindle versions I read. So then I read Lethal Cover Up by Darlene L. Turner. This book was loaned to me by a friend who happens to know the author. She is a Canadian author, and the story is set in Canada. So that just makes it more, because I'm Canadian, that just makes it that much more enjoyable for me, and it was set in New Brunswick with kind of a border across into Maine. And I loved Maine. Maine was actually the last place we visited on vacation before COVID. And it just I loved it at the time, and now it's kind of like, oh, remember when you went on vacation? Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people have that type of. So this story, it's a love-inspired mystery suspense. So obviously there's suspense and romance in it because love-inspired. There is so much action that happens throughout this book, from page 1 the whole way through. And it's like, how many people are going to get injured before it's too late, before the case gets wrapped up? I could not put this book down. I needed to know the answers. Early on, I suspected who was involved, but then something happens that makes me think, oh, maybe it wasn't them. Okay, so maybe it was this person instead. But then something else is discovered, and I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't. I'm like, I don't know who the mastermind behind all this is. So I realized I should have stuck with my original gut, because that's who it was. The character development was really done. Again, it's another second chance romance story. Characters had dated in high school, then kind of went their separate ways, and then came back, and obviously, it's one of those that they're going to end up together in the end, right? So this was so much fun to read. I read this probably in a day and a half, maybe even a day. I kind of think I started it before going to bed one night and then finished it the next day for sure. So this was a 5 out of 5 for me because I loved it. So then the next book I read this month was Safe in His Arms by Melanie D. Sniker. This is a book 1 of a 2-book series, maybe a 3-book series, I'm not sure. I got this free on my Kindle sometime last summer, and it was one of those that, oh, that looks interesting, I'll add it on. I don't know when I'll read it. But I picked it up because it fit the prompt on Chantel's Reads All Day book. You read your bookshelf challenge for the year, where have a body part in the title, and this one had arms. And I don't have very many books that had a body part in the title. So I decided to pick this one up because it was a free on Kindle. I wasn't really expecting to like it, but I was shocked. I really enjoyed this book. I rated it 4 out of 5. It is in the contemporary romance genre, and it's about this girl that's kind of going on the run from an ex-boyfriend, ends up in a brand new town, kind of trying to start life over again and stay hidden, not be discovered. She gets a job, meets her boss, meets his friends, and just they kind of build a relationship. So I kept thinking, even after I closed the book, to take a break, to do real life, kind of. And I just kept thinking about it. It's like, what's going to happen to this character? Or is she going to make it? Or will the ex find her? Or and I wasn't expecting to keep thinking about it. So yeah, I recommend that one. It was a good one. Then the last book I read for the month is In Need of Protection by Jill Elizabeth Nelson. This is another love-inspired suspense book. I've read quite a bit of Jill Elizabeth Nelson in the past, and I've usually enjoyed the stories. This one just didn't, I struggled with this one. I don't even know what I didn't write down what I rated it. This was kind of a between a 2 and a 3 for me. It had the ton of action that you come to expect in a love inspired suspense if you've read. Like, you just know that there's going to be a lot of action from book one, from page one. But I couldn't connect with the characters or the way they were acting. There was time, it was an FBI agent and a nature vlogger. And or not an FBI agent, he was a marshal, at U.S. Marshal. So he's trying to provide protection for this nature vlogger, but it seemed at times that she was the trained agent over him, just with her gun handling or some of the other, like, it just, but then not that he was a weak male or anything like that. They just didn't seem to fit their characters, or didn't it come across as what you expected? I don't know. It wasn't. Yeah. So it was a disappointing read for me. Yeah. So out of the 8 books that I read this month, my favorites were definitely Lethal Cover Up by Darlene L. Turner, and Acceptable Risk. Was it Acceptable? No. Yes, did I say book 3 was my favorite before? Because I meant book 2. Wow. Acceptable Risk by Lynette Eason. Those are definitely those are my 2 5-star reads from the month, and those were definitely my 2 favorite books. So, I will be, as I mentioned, I will be doing a full review on the Danger Never Sleeps series by Lynette Eason. I do have a blog where I will be posting all my reviews for these books that I have read. The blog address is cjanereed.blogspot.ca. So if you want to follow me there, that'd be great, and it'd be great if you subscribe and like this channel. I plan on maybe doing 1 video a week to start out with. We'll see how it goes from there. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Bye.